right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cornbread. Just want to remind everybody if you're here for the first time, go ahead and follow us on IG and Facebook at eatmorecornbread.com. Subscribe here, YouTube, and then also visit our website at eatmorecornbread.com. So today we're going to talk about killing, smashing, destroying, moving past your comfort zone because that's killing us. But the first thing I want to do is say hi to my bros. How y'all doing, fellas? You doing all right?
What it do, bro?
Got brother Hip here. We got brother Ash here. It's always a pleasure speaking with y'all. So I wanted to talk about killing your comfort zone because we have to grow. And I think we can get into a comfort zone almost by default by just our inner workings, trying to do the best that we can, and we can find ourselves in a comfort zone. It's not a bad thing, but it is troubling when you want to continue to grow, but we naturally and by default build a comfort zone. And the only way to get out of that is to kind of kill your comfort zone. But the one thing about it is our comfort zone is created to block away all adversity, all of our fears, all of the challenges and things like that. It's hard over there. It's scary over there. But I think the way to get through to your comfort zone is to define your fear and figure out what the worst case scenario is and make a plan for it, and then just keep going. But we're going to talk about what that means a little bit further. But I want to see y'all nodding your head. Well, let's start with Hip. Hip, what do you think about killing your comfort zone? What do you think about comfort zones?
Cooking with Crisco, baby. That's for the older folks. Young folks don't know what Crisco is. Crisco. You said some powerful stuff there a second ago in reference to defining your fears in regards to your comfort zone. Let's be honest. Comfort zones are defense mechanisms. That's all they are. They are preventative measures that we put in place for ourselves to protect ourselves, or so we think protect ourselves. They're also reactionary things that we go to make ourselves feel whole again or bring ourselves out of a damp or dark place. And when we talk about defining those spaces, I think we have to be very, very intentional to make sure that we know the what, and we can speak to those things that cue us up from a triggering aspect or factor that gets us into those arenas anyway. Comfort zones, I'm going to say, aren't bad things if they're used properly. So when you think about zoning something, right, it's really all about marking a place or a territory that you set up for measures. And it could be protective measures. It can be reliant measures, things, safety measures, whatever. You've marked it because you've identified it so that it's that place of development and or safety for you. But when we use comfort as a defense mechanism, I think we miss out on opportunities to develop and grow. And that is debilitating, and it sometimes happens without our permission and without us even being aware that it's happening, because we're so accustomed and used to responding and reacting to things a certain way or avoiding certain things intentionally, because again, it takes us to a space of growth. And we know growth doesn't always feel good. And, I'll throw in there, change is unadoptive, if it's not warranted. So I just wanted to recognize in this space that comfort zones aren't necessarily a bad thing, but if we're going to kill them, we don't kind of kill them. We kill them.
Yeah,
we kill them so that we don't have those in-between spaces of trying to create more defense mechanisms that are pacifying the ones that already exist, because again, we don't want to face a channel or face a pivot or face a platform that we need to stand on so we can really shining our light. And I think the word killing is conviction, right? It's a conviction word of not just accountability, not just ownership, but it's a position of power, a position of poisonous, of standing in your treachery, regardless of what's coming your way in terms of your growth.
I like that.
I was feeling like I needed to be poetic in that tonight, because it's so simple, but it's hard, right? Mm-hmm. It's so easy, but it's not. And I think we need the right words to understand how to maneuver, because we all are maneuvering, trying to get out of the box all the time. But we need to just make sure that we are intentional and conscious about one toe out, your whole thigh and leg back in, right? Like, so not just
we got to go all the way with it.
Just to be
Yeah. I like to,
you know.
It's that conviction. That's conviction. What about you, brother Ash?
Man,
You about to take us somewhere? What you got, Ash?
You made me sit up on that.
I knew it. You said a word. You said a word, and I was like, "Uh-oh."
It was for me. It was the killing for me, right? It was that for me, because it really hit home. You know, it's like, are you really killing your comfort zone, right? For me, it brought to mind a certain passage that talks about mortifying the deeds of the flesh, right? Terminology, mortify. God was very serious about it, like, bludgeoning it to death, but in the same spirit with your comfort zone, with my comfort zone, as I self-reflect and really self-evaluate and think about, like, I just called you, like, what, yesterday or the day before that, about a major opportunity and being able to spread my wings. And I realized that what I was really dealing with was about that comfort zone. And am I really mortifying, right, my comfort zone? Because the thing about this, and you kind of hit on it, both of you hit on it, essentially, is the fact that we play around with the killing aspect of it, because we want to be, once I kill it, I can't go back, right? Once I put it to death, then there is no back. It is only left for me to go into this new lane, in this new space. And the word that was also coming to me of thinking about comfort zone was really coping zone, right? And I never looked at it like that until you started talking here, right? That really our comfort zone is becoming coping zones, right? It's a way for us to cope with our fears, nurse them up, for us to cope with the traumas of our past, right? Or our insecurities, right? And so we find a comfort level. We find a warm blanket. We find a tub of ice cream. We find cornbread. Hello. We find all these different spaces.
Cornbread, though. Come get some cornbread. You come get some of this. Okay?
Right?
We got you.
We got you safe, right? We're going to make you feel safe, right? But we find all these different things to cope with these things. But I learned how to, what has life started to look like when I learned how to cope and translate into different spaces, right? And that is what I believe we're talking about here. Like, not coping in one space, but being able to cope, because it's not the fact that you're not going to meet things in life that you're not going to have to cope with, but coping in different spaces of life that allows me to lift and translate into different areas.
I feel like an enabler a little bit, because I feel like I should have called you out. If I'm your man's, I feel like I should have called you out when we had that conversation, and not just for a judgment standpoint, but more so about you were having that moment, and I know that moment for you, right? And I should have probably said, "Stan, bro," like, and I did, and I guess in my own way, but
you did in your way.
I feel like I should have gave you some more heat to kind of say, "Didn't we talk about this?"
I mean,
but, I knew you could. Even if I said that, I knew you could handle that, and you would understand why I would be saying that to you. But I think why I didn't do it, I think a lot of times we get mixed up in our own messaging about how to communicate that to someone we love and care about when they need to get out of their own way, and trying to not pass judgment on them in our sincerity, but do it in a way that is fluid, and they understand that I know you're better than this. I know you want more than this, and I see you here. You can't do that anymore. I think it gets choppy if we don't have those type of relationships when we're trying to communicate that, and I think that's probably why a lot of folks go to their comfort zones, because that's the only thing they feel that they can trust.
Right. Absolutely.
That might be a prescribed comfort zone. Maybe we set ourselves up to not have folks to challenge us. We coped with being afraid of making connections by not making connections. And as a result, when I find myself in a comfort zone, if I have that awareness, it's going to be real hard to get out, because I know what my fears are, and I know where I don't want to go. And my brain says, yeah, it's scary over there. And if you do that, to his point, there's no going back. And we like how we are now. So don't do that. Be afraid. And to Ashley's point, and the point that we've made on this show before, yeah, you're supposed to be afraid. When you feel the fear, that's how you know you're doing something right. Because now you're not coping. Now you're actively participating in life. So yeah, it's gonna be scary. you probably gonna have some questions. You probably gonna have some people to try to talk things out with. But I think that's the engagement in life, when you start feeling like you're growing, when you start feeling afraid, when it's like, man, should I tell my boy this? Yes, you should tell your boy this. And you should tell your boy, because they probably going through it too. We all are trying to break through some kind of barrier, some kind of coping to get to a next level. We trying to grow here. And that's what it's about.
You saying all the sayings today. I mean, y'all talking good.
I'm just saying, like, just because it's real right now, like what Curtis just said, Ashley, is what we literally go through. And, you know, as we always say on this platform, I'm grateful for this because, again, this is a space with Black men that I can communicate in directly, intentionally, and have the expectation of accountability coming right back to me that I normally don't have in a lot of other spaces that I'm connected to. For whatever reason, you know, and so, you know, I honor this particular space, but we've grown into that space together of really seeing the alignment collectively, but also, even if it's disjointed, knowing how to support in a way that we can communicate that this is support, leave that alone. And, or if I see you stuck, I'm going to tell you what I see. And you might not like me today, or you might feel some kind of way about me tomorrow, but you know what place it comes from. It comes from
because of that track record.
Right.
The track record of you doing that has showed me that this is not a place of harm that he's coming from, right? So it's all in being aware, having some folks that you aware with. So when they come at you, you don't feel defensive and you don't immediately block all of that out and say, you know what? Nah, he just hating. Nah, some people not. Some people actually want to help you and can see where you can grow because they've been around, not because they want your spot or they want your stuff or anything like that. But that's another topic. We're talking about how we move.
Well, let's stay there for a second, because you this is not talked about enough. Like, even with your man that you see moving in a different way that you want to move into, and he brings some knowledge to you.
But go ahead.
And he brings some knowledge to you, and he brings context to you because he's either been burned before, and you might not know all his inner workings of how he moves, but you got track record with him to see that he is a mover, and he tries to give that to you. And like Curtis stated, you may get defensive because you feel you should be moving the same way, but you aren't receptive to the building blocks that it takes for you to actually get out of that comfort zone. Because the comfort zone for you has been you telling yourself mentally that these people are against you, or, you know, I got this. I've been doing this by myself. When it's kind of like people are always, those that are closest to you, who are aligned to you, who actually have your best interests at heart, they feel your energy and your vibe 24/7. And they are secretly probably always looking for an opportunity to help you elevate. Because again, you're doing it different ways. Even if you have the same mindset and the same interests, you're different people. And I think we have to really honor that first. Like, I can't get mad at you if you are fearless. And I want to be that, but I don't communicate that to you. I'm just watching you, and I'm trying to measure myself with you in my comfort zone that limits me to doing just this. When I see how you're doing this, and I can't get myself over that, or I'm not willing to be honest with myself to say, I want to be fearless and do the work that it takes to become fearless, but I decide and choose to stay here. You know, it just can't work like that. Like, it just, you will not grow and develop that way. Your comfort zone will stay alive and well, and will have its own heartbeat and its own liver and lungs, and you will be incubating your own baby with that thing, like giving it life support and carrying it with you everywhere you go, like a bunch of blocks and bricks that is weighting you down from becoming the person that you secretly or outwardly long to become. You know, I call that in terms of us noticing people with irrational behavior sometimes, even your friends and loved ones, where you're like, I don't understand. You're like, one day you're doing this and one day you're doing that, and it doesn't make sense. And it's like this and it's like that. And you want to say something, but you know, they might snap off at you, and you want to respect their personality or whatever the case is. And you see that person struggling inwardly because they're trying to break out of their zones, you know, and are afraid to speak to the person that's closest to them for whatever reason. And maybe we can kind of talk about that a little bit. You guys can give some insight to that. You know, why is that? Like, why do we honor the words of someone we may not know versus someone who is aligned to you and really cares about you as gold versus fool's gold?
Yeah, I think that's a proximity thing. I could admire you from afar, because if I don't measure up, you'll never know. You'll never know that. But if you my boy and I see you growing and I I can't really run away from that too much. You know me, I know you, I know where you started, I know where things are as time passed, and I can't lie to myself and say I didn't grow as much if that's the case. Uh, so that's a point of adversity that might come in a weak relationship. But if we've been working on this as boys, we've been talking about how to grow, and I see you grow. There's nothing but uh, pride in seeing my folks grow. But there is fear in I won't be growing too, so you'll leave me behind. And there's fear in I actually will grow and I might leave y'all behind. All of that stuff is scary because I like how this works, but I can't be afraid of the fear, or excuse me, I can't be afraid of the growth, especially the growth that we're actively trying to do right now. So, again, we can't be afraid to kill this today, Curtis. He might die. He might die because I learned something new, and
Bro,
he can't
take the
get some more.
might out. Take the might out. So, I'm an actual factual kind of guy. Take the might out because it's that conviction again. No, he's going to die if you are to evolve from that zone of complacency. And I only say complacency because it's either self-inflicted or self-accepted, because you have the cues you need to know how to move, either shown or given in terms of resources or given by support. And we decide to, again, barricade ourselves, to your point of that fear or not wanting to step forward from creating a new thing that is unknown to us versus being in the difference of our own selves that we do not like and appreciate.
I like that. I want to ask Brother Ash a direct question. It's direct, Brother Ash.
Okay.
Because I feel like you got the answer to this. An answer to this is when we feel that fear, but we are also aware that we need to grow. How? What do we do first? What do we do first when it's time to grow?
Mhm.
And I've been here in this place for a while. How can I find some guidance? How can I find a direction?
It's a crossroad. And honestly, when the moment you said it, the first thing I heard in me is that it's decision time. And decision time is birthing time, right? It's time it's an intersection, right? It's a crescendo, right? And it's in that moment where real movement happens, right? Where you have that intersection, you have that crossword where the two meet, where you have inside of you, and I've been there so many times, and I've come to this place many times in my life where you feel the pains of innovation, right? Locked down inside of you and frustration, right? Because you don't know how to burst forth or even scared to burst forth, but the two are meeting at each other. And so one of the things that you can do, and honestly, to give you an alternative perspective of talking to someone outside of your circle, for me, actually, it became extremely fruitful, right? Because one thing I did have to recognize was that while I had great people in my circle, they were all lined up right beside me with me, right? May not having a great lens on their view or even know how to push out of themselves the level of excellence that is locked within them. And so what I needed to do was actually expand my circle. And I met you wonderful people, right? The first thing, honestly, I did was pray about it. So I really had to talk to the Lord about it. Like, listen, you put this in me. How do I get it out? That's step one, right? And not only that, but connecting to the right people. And when I began to connect to people who were outside of my circle, who were actually ahead of me, allowing that intimidation to go, right? Had to let intimidation go, right? Of seeing people who were ahead of me, right? And started listening to people, listening to the right messages, right? That gave me the right lens of how to think about this. That you should have people in your circle who are ahead of you, right? You should not be the top of the cream of the crop of your circle, right? Which says a lot about your circle, right? But there should be people who are eons ahead of you so that you have someone who can help you navigate a pathway where you're trying to go. And that's what I was looking for. And so I started transitioning myself by looking for people who were beyond where I was. I'm a single man. I look for people who are married, men who are entrepreneurs, men who are moving in that excellence, moving in that intelligence, moving in their giftedness. And when I got surrounded by that, I started seeing greater reflections of myself, right? And not copying. Hello, there's a difference, right? But reflections, right, of myself, right? I started seeing the things in me that was being reflected by what someone else was doing that gave a pathway for how to me to start moving into it, but making it uniquely mine, right? And so these are some of the things that we need to begin to do because once again, it is about community, it's about village. no man gets there by himself. A lone wolf does not survive, right? So I had to realize what kind of social capital, what kind of pack can I create to begin to build a network that will begin to lead me and help me. Because when a woman is giving birth, she's not in the delivery room by herself, right? There is nurses and doctors and the husbands and an all team to bring this baby in, right? And while I may be pregnant with purpose, I need a delivery room, right? I need people who know, I need a midwife. I need someone who knows how to help me push out what is inside of me. And so I had to go find it. And I'm surrounded by people who can speak into that, who can see that. And when they see me, when I'm supposed to be pushing and getting tired, no push, right? Push that thing right on out and keep moving. And so, it's the beautiful thing about this as well, is I see how contagious that has gotten for my circle, right? When I stepped into that place, my whole circle lifted into that place as well, right? And so it becomes contagious. So these are some of the things that I have begun to do, and I'm seeing how fruitful they are. And so I encourage any man who's listening, that these are some of the steps you need to take. Bridge out, right? Live courageously. As men, it is our space to live courageously, right? And find your lane and go for it.
Hip, you get triggered. You get triggered, Hip. You got something?
That's not one question. That was poetry. I said something earlier where, I talked about the space of understanding the power that you do have in your circle, particularly that's already there. So to your point, Ashley, of, looking for the people that may be outside of where you aren't, but you might be surrounded by that type of alignment that isn't getting movement because everyone is in the comfort zone, right? And going forth and seeking literally that alternative that is blazing, get out of your fear and over your fear to connect with that light and let that heat wave carry you, right? My question is, do you then, you kind of answered it, but I want to talk about it a little bit. Do you then go back to your circle and say, hey, this is what I've learned, I want to share this? Or do you rely solely on the example of you and hope that they see that gravitational pull that you're putting out now and align with that? Do you rely solely on that, or do you find mechanisms of trying to go back now and be in the delivery room catching the afterbirth?
I believe what I had to do, I believe it was a mixture, right? You gotta be careful about going back sometimes, right? Because sometimes going back to certain environments, and the environment you're going back into can be a trigger, right? And it can set you back. So what I had to do was I had to put myself in a space, right? I am pushing forward, and whoever's getting on the train is coming with me, right? And while I'm coming, I'm talking and I'm moving, right? And those who are inspired and who it will trigger, I will see that trigger happening in them, and I'll be able to pass off the things that I'm giving while we're moving in the same direction, right? And it's a vicarious thing, right? Everybody you need to help may not always be directed. It may be vicarious, right? And we need to understand that, right? Some things you may pick up from someone. You may not necessarily sit at the feet of Bill Gates. You may necessarily sit at the feet of Oprah or major multimillionaires or $1 million brilliant people, but you can learn or pick up things vicarious, right? And so learning that space, or toss something to someone vicarious. So I have to learn how to move in that vicarious space, focusing on what my lane is, focusing on what my space is, learning how to, and healthy ways, it's a whole other subject. We can talk about this in a whole other episode. Learning how to be selfish, right? In your space, right? Sometimes it's appropriate for that. I have to be selfish right now. I have to be self-focused, self-directed, and own that lane, own that space. And when I begin to do that, and we'll talk more about this about clearing the smoke when we get to our episode about that. But when I begin to do that, I begin to put myself in a momentum, right? And an emotion. And anyone who is connected to me, because there are genuine people who are connected and attached to my purpose and my assignment. And anyone who is connected to that, they come with me, right? And I don't have to go find them, right? If you are connected, like I don't have to, like even you fellas, I didn't have to go find you. Right? When it came right for the time for us to be connected, we were right in the same place. And neither one of us had to necessarily just pull each other all the time, right? When one begins to move, it pulls us both, it pulls us all, right, into that direction. And so that is how I begin to translate and to move. And And I'm seeing that, honestly. Like I'm seeing that. The word that definitely resonated with me is that you have to leave a circle for a circle. And that was a dichotomy
Facts.
of things, right? Leave your circle for another circle, but you're also leaving your circle for your circle, right? Because when you leave and when you transcend to another place, everyone else can see, right? And the accountability relies on the circle of what they do with that, right? Are they going to go up in a soar, or are they going to sit back in their comfort zone, right? And those who decide to go up to a higher place, you can welcome them in great arms. But those who decide to stay, you can love them for where they are.
Ooh, Hip, I see you. You lean back when Hip does this thing when I know he about to say something. Go ahead, brother.
I just want to ask another question. I know we're getting down to time, so I just want to ask one more question to you, Kurt. Actually, do you? Yeah. Well, you know, it came to me because I want to know your perspective on this. Just because, you know, actually you gave some fruit from one lens of it, but I want to talk about this other lens because I feel like it would resonate more in your space right now, Kurt. What do you do, or how do you actually? You know, what do you do when you can see someone leaving the circle? How do you respond to that when you can see someone breaking through the barriers of their comfort zone, like willingly? How do you respond to that? How should you respond to that? If you're connected to this person and, like Ashley said, you've been in the same space together, but nobody going nowhere fast. And this person is started to be the trailblazer, uncertain, fearful, but they're like, you know what? I got to do it or I'm going to die. You know, because I want to die, actually. I want to kill my comfort zone. So what do you do? How do you respond to that?
I think it's the first thing that we immediately do is kind of reflect on our own station. I see the brother next to me moving. Am I also moving? Because if I'm also moving, then it looks like we're not moving too far, too fast. But if I'm not moving, it looks like they're going way faster. So it's a self-reflection thing just to see where I am. It's not to diminish that other person's growth. So the whole point is to see where I am, to see if I can be of assistance, or if I'm supposed to be learning vicariously. Is this the time for me to be sitting down, shutting up and watch the homie grow? And then as they're doing that, I can ask questions. Why this way? How do you do it that way? Okay, why, ask questions, or am I just watching? And then when they're done, with their blinders on, with their focus, I can tell when the homies is focused. And that's not the time to kind of bother them. You just let them go. They'll get back and they'll say, this is what I learned on this growth. This is why I did that. And maybe I can use that information on my end. But the whole purpose is to just be supportive only. You're growing. Fantastic job. I hope you're doing that for the right reasons. I'm here for you. And I hope as you grow, I'm still part of that. And then it's my responsibility to make sure that I am still part of that. I'm still continuously growing because I want my circle to grow. I don't want to be left behind. But there's times when I have left the circle for a circle. I'm not from this whole coast, and I had to leave California because that was my comfort zone. I was very comfortable there. I have my family there, friends there. It was set up nice. I was like, this is gonna work out fine. And then I got bored. So I think folks who understand what happens when I get bored is I get in some trouble. And nothing legal or anything like that. I just start making reckless decisions just for the sake of fun. And it's just, that's not the way you want to grow. So I left that circle, moved over here, found y'all brothers, and now we're growing so much, and I can still connect, to Ashley's point, connect to my family back home. They can see it. I didn't disappear. I just came over here, and now I'm growing this way, and now they have questions for me. So this whole thing goes full circle. I saw somebody else grow, applied it to my life. I grew. Somebody who saw me asked me about it so they can apply it to their life, and I have to be willing to help. So, this is whole cycle of can't be scared to grow because I have to tell somebody else how to grow. And if I don't do that, I'm breaking the cycle, and we might stagnate. We don't want to do that. Ooh, hope I got through that one. Yeah, I think you muted there, Hip. I think you muted there.
I'm gonna get to my crumb. I feel like we need to get.
Yeah, I think we on crumbs. I think
we on crumbs. Like, it's about to go into like part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, it's simple this week, people. Be willing to die. Be willing to die within yourself. Be willing to die within your circles. Be willing to die within dead relationships. Be willing to die within that time, be willing to die within some of the mental disparities you put yourself through cyclically, that's not supporting your growth physically or tangibly. Be willing to give up the things that have caused you to stay in unsoiled dirt. I think when we accept the fact that we're willing to do that, seeds can be planted. And I liked how I actually said earlier, and even you, Kurt, when you can actually prepare your grounding properly, there can be deposits made, of seeds and water and nourishment and fertilizer and things that help you sprout without your permission. So that the things that you do give permission to, you've been expecting and anticipating betterment, in a big picture way. So be willing to kill your comforts, because if they don't die, you can get a good snapshot into the future because you're living it now.
I like that. I think I really want to Ash to close us out. Because Ash was on one today. Everything he's been saying today, I'm like, yeah, I want more of that. So what I'll do is drop a very concrete way to get through a fear, to get through a comfort zone. And we mentioned it. Get you a pen, get you some paper, write down what you're afraid of. I'm scared to move and be alone or something, whatever it is. And then write down the worst case scenario, what that would mean. I wouldn't have folks to share meals with. I'd have to pay the bills by myself. At night, it'd be boring, stuff like that. Write it down. That's the worst case scenario. And then write down what you would do if that worst case scenario comes to fruition. If I do have to pay these bills, I'm going to have to work this hard. If I am alone this night, I should probably start a podcast with the homie so I have somebody to talk to. Do those things. And as you plan it out, you'll see that one, the only thing stopping us is our actual fear of the worst case scenario. And then when you have a plan for the worst case scenario, you won't have to fear it anymore. So you can push past your comfort zone. So that's it for me today. Brother Ash, take us home.
Y'all got me cool. So listen, live courageously. Live courageously. There is a clear call that is happening even through this conversation. And that call is telling you that it's time to move, right? And for somebody's listening to this right now, it's time for you to leave, right? It's time for you to leave spaces, places, different lots, different comforts that you have held to, and it's time to go. But I have good news for you that you're not by yourself. You are not alone, right? We, your CorNbReaD family, is here for you. And we know what it's like to translate into different spaces, but I have a word for you. It's time to go. It's time for you to transition yourself into all that you are destined to be. And it's time for you to do it and do it courageously. I love what Dr. Hip said. I love what Kurt has said. Face those things head on, and let me give you a little wind beneath your wing. Live courageously. Get yourself together. Pack your bag. It's time to go, right? It's time for you to go into and occupy the spaces and lanes and that you are called and destined for. And should be told, nothing can hold you back, right? Nothing can really hold you back.
You feel like her? You feel like her? I should say,
Go ahead.
I should say, take a trip. Take a trip.
Take it up.
Take a trip.
Let that inner lion out. Let that king out. Let him out. He's begging to come out. Stop putting him behind the gate, right? Let him out. It's time to come forth, and time to come forth now. So I encourage you, I beseech you, come on through, right? Come on through. You're not by yourself, but we're here with you, and we're going to run together.
Ooh, Hip, you did that thing again. You did that thing when you triggered, but I know you got some part. I think we got a couple minutes left. What you got?
No, I'm good. I was like, I mean, that's all we got. We need to get off for tonight, because if not, they're going to get an encore that we didn't plan for. Okay. So
all right. Well, let's do it. Let's do it then. Let me close it out then. All right. Thank you, brothers. This was a good one. I didn't know how this was going to go. Comfort zones, it's hard to talk about those, but I thank y'all for going on this journey with me. I want to remind all of our viewers, if you like this episode and you like what we're talking about here, follow us on IG and Facebook at Eat More CornbReaD. Subscribe to the website at eatmorecornbread.com and go ahead and leave some feedback. We got some Oh, we got some powerful feedback the other day that had me kind of floored. It sat me down. So we really appreciate those type of things, and hope this is food for y'all. I think we don't have much time left. Y'all got any final words? If not, we out of here.
That's it. We'll see y'all next week, man.
We out of here. All right.
All right, peace.
Peace.